Incremental greetings. It's been 4 years since this video, since I started using SuperMemo. So I'm going to share an overview of what has changed in this milestone compared to the previous milestone that was 3 years. And it was actually kind of short. This time the opposite is true. It's a big change. So let me first recap. Last year is okay, I stopped using some features, that is indeed true. I did some hiatus, almost a month and a half of not using SuperMemo, about make memory a choice that, yes, indeed, I know I can appreciate that. What I don't decide to remember gets forgotten. The stats, nothing relevant. Relationship with Wozniak, that is shaping my experience with SuperMemo. First time that I was a beta tester, which was kind of fall short, and importantly, the new era is coming. Instead of era, I could say phase. And indeed, there's a recent video with my friend Winston, and he actually phrased it like that we are in a new phase, we are in a different phase now. So let's start. Remember, this is an overview. I will have more videos that I explain in detail, or if you want to reproduce it, like for instance, future-proofing your collection. So first, now, kind of recently, I used the light theme, as you may see now, and recently. I already created a video on that, the reason why I did it, even against my will, quote unquote. Then something I follow, a convention that I follow now, is that I future-proof my collection. The premise of files over apps. Files over apps. You may have seen this. This is taken from Obsidian. The premise is that if it cannot be exported, I'm not going to spend time on it, because I'm being trapped. Those, among other things, are concepts and links. If you export this in XML file, you will get the repetitions, the content, the images, and so on. Not the links, not the concepts, not the references, and many more. I will do a video about this, by the way. Next chapter this is taken from Gregorios Zonios, but just the title, not the actual content. It is the difference of naive simplicity and wise simplicity. Before, this guy, my previous self, that was naive simplicity. He had no clue what he was doing. Yet. Now I do. But I'm coming like kind of full circle. I only do 2 templates, one for topics, one for items. I only have 8 concepts. Very basic. There are many registries that I no longer use. But it's for a reason. I have tried everything. Even in the long term, I did A/B testing, and based on my flow, I no longer need this feature. Or because now I no longer do formal sciences, language learning, image occlusion, videos, and so on. Since I'm taking use cases out of my flow, I can further simplify my flow. First, I use one single collection. That's it. No need to switch over or so on. No. One single collection for everything. Since now I only have 8 concepts, I never changed my active concept. Now in this case it is, because I recorded some videos, but I always have the root. I no longer have the dummy concept to do or imports. Like, I will decide later where to put it. I use the root for that. I never change template, because there's only one for each type, and the color is the same. So I don't spend any time applying templates, changing the color, no. I think it's like Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, that he wears the same clothing every single day. Not exactly the same, but copies of the same thing. So you don't spend time deciding what you will choose today. More or less same thing. Everything will look the same, plain and simple, no decisions. with this Y simplicity, what I'm also taking out is choice and decision fatigue. That's a win, by the way. Next is that I scarcely use images. Even now, as you can see, usually what I did with these kind of videos, I use SuperMemo as a slideshow. I had some images, and I leave it like that to convey the idea, to convey the message that I no longer do that. A lot, I can do, but a lot less. Look at this, 900. I have less images than before, even though in this backup I have 12,000 items. So the proportion is a lot lower. Yes, I pruned formal sciences. That's the update from the last milestone, which I already gave up language learning back then. I finally moved all vocabulary items. This is fine-tuning. This is in the sense that I consider this language learning. I created the item as a language perspective. If the item is how is the name of this known for this blah 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 blah, the name of a theory, of a principle, and I have to recall the name of that. At some sort, it's language learning, but I just leave it in there. Again, wise simplicity. So if it just happened through incremental reading, it stays in SuperMemo. I won't have sentences, flashcards that are a sentence for language learning in SuperMemo. So everything that I did before making this decision, it was about 700 and something, are in Anki. So now, from now on, there's no distinction. It's a lot simpler. I will never need to back up or move things around. A lot simpler. Then, now this window, the element data window, I no longer have this one in my genuine layout, the one I use for myself. Why? Because A, what's there? What I was looking at here. Yeah, the template. I don't care. I only have one template. I don't have template-less elements, so I cannot choose any other template. It's pointless to have this. The concept, I only have 8 and are all here. The first level of hierarchy. I don't have anything nested. That means that just looking at the ancestors window, I will know the concept already. So I don't have to take a peek here. And everything else that I actually look at, like especially the priority, perhaps the leech count or the interval, I will use the element window. So therefore, I don't need this window anymore. Again, wise simplicity. It's not because it's naive that, yeah, I don't know what is this, all of these metrics, therefore I don't look at them. Another point, and I will also make a video about this in depth. Back in the day, I had an all-time high of 500,000 items. Sorry, 500,000 elements. 522,000 and something else elements in my collection. Then I massively delete, I split collections, and now it's actually growing little by little again. So now this collection is close to 50,000, so 10%. So I think I should say that's closer of this. This was such a good decision. It has been a lot easier to prioritize. A lot easier. And eventually, with some months after resetting priorities while I do my repetitions and so on, it's finally under my control. There's also another factor, by the way, and it's because I have been increasing the memorized items. So look at now how it is. It's more than a third, more than 33%. So that means that for every element in my collection, one is an item. What's hard to prioritize is when you have memorized topics, especially the ones that you have never seen yet. You set the priority once, perhaps you didn't even. So the priority is not well set. And this accumulates, and most of your collection is actually like this. Now it's easier. I also do a related video about that the more items you have, the more freedom you can do for more memorized topics. If I have 50,000 memorized items, I can have more space, let's say 50-50 for topics, and I can choose the priorities a lot easier. Then is 95% of the collection is unprocessed. That is very hard to prioritize. Next one, what I realized, you know that I have used Spanish for the MBA, about the zero repetition incremental reading. By the way, I used the slides, this was its own collection. Now I only use one single collection. The reason is that first I will delete this as soon as I'm done with those videos, and basically the slides will be gone. I used Spanish because all of the content was in Spanish. Then I had the articles. Everything was super friendly for SuperMemo because it was HTML. Super friendly even for Internet Explorer, something very rare. But you know what? I tried. Now, I cannot tolerate it. So, to my surprise, I do not tolerate other languages for incremental reading. It has to be English. It's a deal breaker. Then, especially because what I did is business, then if I read everything is in English, or most of it is in English, so having it in Spanish, yeah, I can process this as long as I know all of the jargon in both languages, but no. I don't like the flow in Spanish. Deal breaker. Again, simplicity. And I do language learning, by the way, not in incremental reading, not here, but elsewhere. This summarizes the naive simplicity versus wise simplicity. I have taken the simplicity to the extreme. Like the templates, I cannot go simpler than that. Concepts, I cannot go simpler than that. Next, I shall use Internet Explorer only for importing Wikipedia, which recently it's half of what I import, it's from Wikipedia. Why? Because it's way faster and backless. This is enough for me. Then, you may have seen now that here I have years. It's something I decided to do is, let me go here the imports. I divided this now, this year. But with SuperMemo, you can actually move this in bulk. If you know how to do it, it's easy to do it. And for me, it's like an heuristic that, hey, let me start a subset for an older year. And incrementally set this to a concept. As you can see here, I'm almost done. And look at here, there are a ton. And in this case, this year I have imported quite a lot. So I exceeded the amount of 500 children. So I started a second folder. For me, it works. So now everything that you see here, that is the first child of the root, means on a starting point of a subset review. That is actually the purpose of the existence of that concept. That means, if I never want to do a cognition subset, this will be merged with another concept. There is no reason for me to use this concept anymore, because the only reason is to use the hook, so everything goes to the same place. I can use the subset review. Nothing else. I don't use the neural review. Too much maintaining. It's high maintenance for me. Deal breaker. Another topic, which also do several videos about that. I introduced, since last milestone, I introduced the AI to my flow, which now I rely on, to the point that if I'm offline, for instance, on the airport, I cannot do my regular session anymore. I have to rely on some kind of subset, only items, something like that, because I have no connection to the internet. Therefore, among other things, I can use language models. So the AI has changed my flow with SuperMemo. Massively. Then overall, you will think, wait, now my experience is a lot more lightweight. I don't do videos. I just use images scarcely. Hey, why not going back to Linux? Which, by the way, I was a die-hard user of Linux. Why not? I have a virtual machine and use SuperMemo there. I don't discard it. Next are the stats. I will do a standalone video on that with my genuine collection, not a backup. And what's one last thing? It may sound like pointless, but I think it's more relevant. It's preciseness and correctness. So what I actually use AI for is to be more concrete with my flashcards, especially with English, that is my third language. Yeah, I want to say that, but with less words, more simple. I know I can. There's room for improvement. But yeah, how I'm lacking here the proficiency a little. So I'm using AI with this. What has been happening is that now, even if I am just passive, I recall things more preciseness. That yeah, that's the answer, but that can be even fine-tuned to be more precise, even though with the same amount of words. So here I have two examples that I got recently when I created this in SuperMemo, basically. Are not the best examples, but will be, I think, enough to make my point. So look at this scenario. This was in Spanish, by the way, so it's kind of lost in translation. That, yes, equivalent of skip the music. Someone told me that. What do you mean skip the music? You cannot skip music. I think you meant to skip the song or skip the track. Yeah, but I'm not that I'm picky. It's not the same, right? So sometimes, if you go into tech or, I don't know, in science, yeah, this finesse is quite important. That, yeah, I get what you mean, but you are not actually saying that. Another one, that lower the crystal or the window in the car. But actually what she meant is folding in the mirrors. It's not the same to lower than to fold in. And it's not the same the crystal than the mirror. That even though in this case it's very similar, the context, it's not the same thing. So let's say that I have done a very extended course with the help of AI of this preciseness and concreteness, that now I'm more sensitive of this concreteness. That I have less tolerance. That if it's for me, I will change it. But in real life, I'm noticing this more that you could improve how you define or mention things. So that's all. It's an overview. There will be more videos, as I mentioned. Eventually, when they are done, you will see those in the corner. The question is, there will be a 5-year milestone of SuperMemo? Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there will be a 6 still. Until there's no incremental reading app other than SuperMemo, I will keep using SuperMemo. So that's all I wanted to share. So that's the overview of my 4-year milestone, like the Olympic Games. It's been a while, but there's more to come. See you incrementally.